All right, all right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the very last, but definitely not the least, episode for this year's Market Access series, where our goal for this series, especially in this episode, is to introduce you to people and ideas that will help you navigate the Taiwan market. I'm Joel, and this is the Market Access series Taiwan, in the last series of 5 episodes where we discuss market potential, challenges, opportunities, as well as the supports available. And we are now at the very end of the series. And in the first 4 episodes, we heard some of the tips and insights on how we can enter the Thailand, Philippines, Korea, and Hong Kong market. And I see a lot of familiar names joining in since the first episode. So thank you so much for tuning in. And to those who are joining in us, oh, sorry, to those who are joining us for the first time as well, thank you so much for joining as we talk about how you can begin your journey in expanding across Asia. Now, before we start, let's just go over a few house rules. So first, please do note that this is a panel discussion, and we would like to invite you to join by sharing your thoughts and comments on the topic in the chat widget below. Secondly, the floor is always open to your questions. So please do share your questions in the Q&A widget below, and we will get back to it so the panelists can address them at the end. And lastly, with the first two house rules in mind, please know that this webinar is recorded and will be shared with all of you via email so you can view it after. Okay, with all of that out of the way, so here's a quick poll. So we always want to get to know where you are coming from and how this webinar can be helpful for you. So on your screen are 2 questions in the poll. So the first question is, when are you planning to expand to Taiwan? So I think this is a really interesting question because in the first episodes as well, we did ask all of the attendees on when are they planning to expand to the first 4 countries we covered. So for this series, we are covering Taiwan, and I see a lot of people answering they are still in the planning phase. Yeah, so please keep the answers coming in. And you also have the second question and the poll on your screen. So the second question is, what other challenges do you see entering the Taiwan market? So we have product market fit, understanding the market, hiring of local talents, logistics and management, and others. So if you have any other challenges that you see entering into the Taiwan market, please let us know in the comment section below as well. So we will be giving this a few more seconds, and we will be sharing the results with all of you as well. But it looks like a lot of people are still, some people are planning to expand to Taiwan within the year, within the next year and this year, and a lot of them are still in the planning phase. And closing the poll now. Okay, so I think this is a really interesting group of audience that we have. So there are a lot of people who are still in the planning phase, which is good. And I think we have a balance of product market fit, understanding the market, and hiring of local talents as a problem, but mostly in the logistics and management. But enough of that. We will be asking our panelists and the moderator to touch more on the details of this one. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And once again, with all of that out of the way, I would now like to pass the floor to our moderator, Dennis. So Dennis is an experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in the government administration industry, skilled in accounting, corporate structure advisory, corporate governance, and cross-border structuring matters. So please, help me in welcoming our moderator for today, the CEO and founder of Legacy, Mr. Dennis Poh. Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Joel.
Hi,
Thanks
how
for the
are you?
introduction. Great, the last one.
Yes,
like you say, the last but not the least.
yes, definitely. And yeah, I now pass the floor to you. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. So I thought to do a quick short introduction about myself also. But I mean, thankful to Joel for the great introduction. So I'm the founder of and CEO of Legacy, and we provide corporate service in the Asia markets, right? So we help our clients with structuring and especially looking at like overseas expansion and stuff like setting up the companies and stuff like that. That's what we do. And I wanted to cover also that the agenda for like basically how the structure of this panel discussion will look like today, so that you guys can get prepared. I hope you get your pens and papers ready, because through the past the market access series, right, there has been a lot of information, a lot of very useful data points even through the panel discussion itself. So what we'll be doing is that I'll be shortly introducing the panelists in a short while, and then we will get into a panel discussion. I'll be asking a few talking points that is actually the more of the common questions that's being asked throughout the market access series. And then we'll get into a Q&A. So meanwhile, as you have any questions that you wish us to address, right, please put into the Q&A. We'll address them after the panel discussion. That is about give it about 10 minutes, and then we'll be doing the closing for 5 minutes. So that is how the structure of this panel discussion will look like. So I did like to start from by introducing the panelists first. So first, I would like to introduce Mr. Jun Wakabayashi. He's the associate investor of AppWorks. And Jun, towards you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi everyone, nice meeting everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Jun. I'm an associate over at AppWorks. AppWorks is one of the largest startup accelerators and founder communities in Greater Southeast Asia. We also are one of the most active early stage investors as well. And I said Greater Southeast Asia because we like to include Taiwan alongside this incredibly fast growing region called Southeast Asia, hence Greater Southeast Asia. So on the accelerator front, we've been around for the past 10 years, usually intake anywhere from 30 to 40 startups every 6 months. So that's 2 batches a year, focusing primarily on AI, IoT, also crypto, Web3, DAOs, and also Southeast Asia. So 3 broad themes that we generally like to focus on. And to date, we've helped accelerate more than 470 startups that amounts to around 1,500 founders all across this region. And in parallel, our VC funds do selective investments in startups that have passed through our program, as well as non-accelerator startups. So some of our portfolio companies include some notable names like Lalamove, Shopback, Carousel, Pace, and even on the crypto side, we've invested in companies such as Kraken, Animoca Brands, Figment, et cetera, et cetera. You can go to our website to see the full list of names. Nevertheless, we are super excited to be represented on the panel today. We love Taiwan. We think it provides a valuable opportunity for many, many startups in this region to expand to, both in terms of market opportunity as well as R&D hub. So love to share more insights later. Thanks.
Thank you, Jun. So before you close off, right? I wanted to ask this usual question. That's what we do in market access series, right? Is that so this is going to be a random question that we ask. So this weekend, I think it's going to be a long weekend. It's the same for you, right? Like Labor Day and stuff like that. Okay, wonderful. Do you have any plans for the weekend?
Aside from catching up on work, I'll probably go down south to do some hiking.
Oh, nice! Wow. Yeah, I mean, usually long holidays is the best time to catch up with work. Nobody disturbs you and stuff like that. I think I agree. I think I'm gonna hear the same thing from the other panelists, I guess. So thanks, Jun, for the introduction. Okay. Next, I would like to introduce you to Miss Lin Kuan-Yu. So, or Lisa, right? She's the International Business Development Director of the National Innovation and Entrepreneurship Association. So, Lisa, to you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Dennis, for your very kind introduction. And nice to meet everyone. Happy to be here. And I'm Lisa from NIEA, the National Innovation and Entrepreneurship Association of Taiwan, which has been an NPO focusing on empowering entrepreneurship since actually in 1972. It's quite old. And we work very closely with Taiwanese government on many programs for supporting young entrepreneurs, such as the Star Tourist. It's a national star campus, including a self-lending program that we are happy to see more and more foreign startups to apply for. And it's for NIEA is very deeply connected to local enterprises in Taiwan, and with 24 branches all over Taiwan in every local city and county, and providing global connections and business opportunity between startups and SMEs. So thank you for having me here, and pleasure to be here today. And I have seen on the poll, and lots of people vote product market fit or still planning to Taiwan, maybe if you are interested, then you can connect us and we can connect you to local business. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. So the same question to you also. I believe the long weekend, even in US, right? And you're in US now, right? So, what's the plan?
Maybe just go to park, picnicking.
Nice. That sounds like a good plan. Great. So, Lisa, thanks for the introduction. Okay. And of course, the last but not least, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Charles Ferguson. So he's the General Manager, Asia Pacific of the Globalization Partners. So, Charles, to you.
Thanks a lot, Dennis. And Jun and Lisa, great to see you guys. Very excited to be here with all of you today, kind of exploring not only the opportunity for businesses to expand into Taiwan, also the opportunities for businesses in Taiwan to expand around the world. And probably most interesting in my point of view, and what I'm most excited to kind of explore, is all the incredible amounts of talent that are available to companies all around the world today in Taiwan. So there's just a huge amount of potential both for businesses to expand in, out, and around and with Taiwan. So it's a fantastic subject for this final episode in the series. Thanks for the intro. I'm Charlie. I'm the GM of this company, Globalization Partners. And at GP, we provide a service to companies across a technology platform that allows for businesses to hire talent compliantly in any country practically on earth. We're in 187 countries around the world, where businesses might not have their own existing legal entity or infrastructure in place. So we provide the local compliant vehicle, as well as the guidance from an HR perspective, and the technology to provide for the onboarding, the expense management, the payroll, the benefits administration, et cetera. And this is helpful if you're trying to explore the potential of a market and you want to kind of dip your toe in the water and assess product market fit, which I know some of you mentioned is a challenge that you're grappling with perhaps in your expansion. Or it can be an opportunity to grab fantastic talent, regardless of the fact that you may or may not be interested in that market. And as I said, Taiwan is a hub of incredibly talented, highly educated potential candidates for your business, particularly in technology. So we'll get into that. But like I say, it's a fantastic subject. It's an amazing time to be looking at Taiwan, particularly with some of the economic policies that are in place around the looking to the south and the inclusion into the greater Southeast Asian market. I think I'm excited, and I know you are too. So I'm going to preempt you and tell you what I'm going to do this weekend. I think not much. I'm going to kind of play in between the two answers from Jun and Lisa. I'm going to catch up on work because I have to, but I'm also going to take the kids and get out to do some hiking this weekend because there's some wonderful places to go explore. The only challenge is that unlike Taiwan, we don't have incredible mountains here in Singapore. We have mostly hills. It's really, really bloody hot. And because it's so small and it's a holiday weekend, you can't really go hiking. It's more like people watching because everybody's going to be outside. There's no opportunity to get too far out into nature, but we'll see what we can do. Back over to you, Dennis.
Thanks, Charles. Makes exercise then, I think, over the weekend. I'm actually looking forward to come back to Singapore over the weekend.
I bet, man. I bet.
Right, finally. And probably, you're right. go for some more hiking, I guess. Yeah. So I'd like to start the panel discussion. I'll start from some of these, like I mentioned about this talking points that I like to address the panelists, and that I'll start from here. I thought of also taking some of taking note of some of the points on the poll results itself. I thought that's quite interesting. It's quite different from the other series. So I like to start from asking the question, right? Why should company consider expanding to Taiwan? And I did like for Lisa, can you address this question first?
Honestly, actually, I'm afraid I don't think all startups should come to Taiwan. But if your startup is looking for high-tech engineering talent and is making like a rapid global deployment, I would strongly recommend you to come. And because I am echo to what Charles just said, I think the talent is very unique in this area. It's not just because it's Taiwan has a relatively low cost and highly educated talent. It's also because it has very vibrant community between engineering talent. They have lots of local engineering community, open source community, and you can get your talent there very easily. And also because the Taiwanese culture actually is a little bit weird in this area. I mean, compared to Japan, Korea, China, people tend to go to big company and they want to go to huge, maybe Tencent or this very huge company. But in Taiwan, lots of people, they tend to go to they're more willing to take risks is because of the entrepreneurship culture in Taiwan. Taiwan has a culture and history that strongly respect entrepreneurship, and so that's why some of very extraordinary good engineer, they were willing to go to startups, but not huge company. They want to make things different, make new things, make a new company, build their own company. So I think it's better to be lots of huge companies, they build their R&D center in Taiwan, and also lots of startups, they come into Taiwan and build their AI research center. So I think if you are looking for you're building a international company, then I think you will consider Taiwan as your one of the base. Yeah.
Oh wow, Lisa, thanks for that insight. I think it's very interesting. And that you mentioned about that. I seldom get to hear about this, which is like a place where culturally is celebrating entrepreneurship. I think that's great. That's the direction, right? I think it'll be a great place to look for co-founders, right? That's definitely one of the thoughts I have also. Yeah, Lisa, go ahead, please.
After, not just co-founder, also because you need lots of people to build your company. I think talent here tend to see their company as their own company. That's why they join the startup and not a big company. They don't want to be a small, just a small of a big machine. They want to build a company together. So that's why they join startups. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Lisa. So just taking note again on the poll result, itself, right? It says that basically most of the crowd here is still planning. 60% is still planning. So the same question again, but why should company consider expanding to Taiwan? I did like to hear from a different panelist, right? So I thought I like Jun. Would you like to address this?
Sure, happy to. Yeah. The way we see Taiwan is the best analogy we like to use internally is what we call the Wakanda of Asia. So those of you that are Marvel fans, we see
awesome.
essentially as this small hidden tiny island kind of tucked away in the nestled corners of Asia, but still illustrating and providing these incredibly rich resources, that being the talent that we have in this country. And companies such as Microsoft, AWS, IBM, Oath, these big blue chip conglomerates have all set up some form of R&D presence over in Taiwan in the last few years. And it's not just the big guys either. So talk about startups, right? So startups like Carousel, Lalamove, most recently Zendit, one of Indonesia's latest payment unicorns. They all have established some form of R&D hub also in Taiwan. And that's not just from mere coincidence, right? I think the talent in Taiwan is incredibly rich. The education systems here graduate anywhere from 30 to 40,000 engineers per year. And not only that, in terms of abundance, in terms of numbers, but also in terms of cost performance as well. So an average junior engineer here can cost upwards of around $1,700 USD in our experience. And the number of engineers flooding into the startup sector are only going to become more and more as we see a lot of startup unicorns in the past 3 years have also gone public. So talking about companies like Appier, talking about companies like Gogoro, and also one of our own companies, 91 App. So this space is becoming flushed with incredibly high performing and cost performing talent that increasingly startups and companies, blue chip companies alike, just simply cannot more. So that's kind of from the talent side of things, but even from a commercial and market opportunity side of things, there's a reason why we classify Taiwan as Southeast Asia, because Taiwan has forever kind of been looped under this classification and moniker of Greater China, where it's kind of been overshadowed. But I think when you section it off from quote unquote Greater China and put in context of Southeast Asia, suddenly Taiwan has these muscles that it can flex, right? So suddenly Taiwan is the second country in terms of GDP per capita, is the second largest market in terms of GDP right after Indonesia. And so suddenly it actually becomes an incredibly attractive opportunity from a commercial standpoint as well. And certainly we've seen that with a lot of startups that have entered this market. Shopback, for example, the largest cashback provider in this part of the world. They were already active in 6 markets in Southeast Asia before they expanded to Taiwan. And suddenly Taiwan became one of the best performers. We saw that also with the C group. If you look at their IPO prospectus, Taiwan was actually the second largest contributor to GDP. So both in terms of talent, both in terms of commercial opportunities, Taiwan from that is a fantastic opportunity, but also lifestyle. I think Taiwan has always been ranked some of the highest places and best places to live among expats. That's due to low cost of living, and also generally very, very nice people, good infrastructure, sound rule of law, and best of all, the food here, I think, is, in my opinion, the best in this part of the world.
Oh gosh, Jun, you make me hungry now, That's great. I think what Lisa has and Jun has covered, right, has also really sound out like how the poll result sounds like, where we talk about what's the concern that the audience may have when expanding to Taiwan, right? We have very even like product market fit, very even like understanding market, hiring locals, no issue, small percentage. And I thought I wanted to pull out the point about this time for this series. What's different here is that there's more people concerned about being concerned about logistics and management. So I thought that's very interesting, right? And I thought that this leads very well to the next question also about basically what are the business opportunities available for startups expanding to Taiwan. So to that, I did like to have Charles to address it, and also to hear about, Charles, what do you think about this 40% concern about the logistic and management? It's definitely a bit different from the other series that we have.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I think, we will probably have to peel that back a little bit. We get to the Q&A with respect to which aspects of logistics, et cetera. I mean, when you think about location-wise, and that's the 3 rules of real estate: location, location, location. It is an incredibly advantageous location as it relates to the entirety of Asia Pacific. Super solid transportation network, huge amounts of high speed, regular, railways, highways, seaports, airports, amazingly simple to get around, incredible connectivity. It's like 7 international harbors, 17 airports. Logistically, I think you can put that concern aside. It has, remarkable connectivity to the rest of the entirety of Asia Pacific, and equally so to North and South America. Not to mention the tons of different sorts of economic partnership agreements that are in place with all kinds of countries all around the world. And to Jun's point, as relates to the greater Southeast Asia kind of notion, President Tsai put in place an initiative a few years ago called the Southbound Policy, the new Southbound Policy. And this allows for, an even easier and more highly connected sort of trade relationship to 18 different countries. It's like, and my colleagues can correct me, I think it's 10, the 10 ASEAN nations, and I believe 6 or 8 South Asian countries. think it's 6. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a fairly extensive range that allows for a whole litany of different sorts of preferential arrangements with respect to trade, and really rekindles the adage that was kind of the story back in the day, where Taiwan was one of the original Asian tigers, right? It was Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and it never went away. To Jun's point, it's Wakanda, man. So if you found it, you realize how great it is and what's going on. As it relates to, you said logistics, and the other query was around, sorry, management.
Logistics and management, yeah.
Look, I mean, if it's management related to talent, I mean, it's one of the most highly educated environments in the entirety of Asia Pacific. 45% of the population of Taiwan aged 15 and above hold a technical college or university degree. So it's incredibly well educated. 25% of Taiwan's degrees, university degrees, are in engineering. So literally a quarter of everyone that comes through university system has a degree in engineering. There are over 10,000 computer science and IT graduates every single year in Taiwan. So, there's a ton of support. We'll talk, at some point about challenges. With every challenge, there's an equally compelling opportunity. Linguistically, certainly it's far more Mandarin speaking than English speaking. Having said that, there's a policy in place to make it a bilingual nation by 2030. So they're putting in place all of the momentum and the policies and the education infrastructure to drive that, which is pretty phenomenal. And Jun raised a point earlier around, these extremely large blue chip technology companies coming in, setting up R&D centers. They're also putting in the effort at the grassroots to raise the next sort of generation of highly skilled technologists and managers. Large stipends and mentoring programs put in place by Google. Microsoft aims to provide digital skills training for over 200,000 people by 2024. 200,000 people, right? So I don't think, if folks haven't done the significant level of due diligence that's required before you go to any new market, definitely spend some time into peeling back some of the layers with respect to removing perhaps assumptions about Taiwan and really diving into some of the other areas like the product market fit, or how to actually tap into those talent pools, or where the appropriate entry point might be, et cetera, as opposed to being concerned with things that are actually, quite frankly, extremely well designed and very well set up.
Thanks, Charles. I think I remember you have this advice that you always give, right? Poor planning.
Oh yeah, I'll be cliche and say it again. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, right?
Yeah.
And it's simply, do your homework, and realize also that there are so many resources available to you for free to allow you to get a huge amount of background information and direction, not least of which, obviously, just reach out and give Lisa a high five at the NIEA, right? But and Jun as well, and between the two of them, their networks of connectivity as it relates to opportunity across virtually every spectrum you can imagine. And I'll do a shameless plug as well. I mean, we're on the ground in Taiwan also, so between the three of us, we won't let you down.
Thanks, Charles. I think that's great. I mean, the audience definitely will have a lot of assurance, right, through these panelists. So I think what is interesting is that Jun and Charles, you have covered quite a bit about like the opportunities, as earlier mentioned also. And I really would want to deep dive a little bit here. And Lisa, I did like to ask you this question, right? Can you tell us anything that is like specific opportunities in Taiwan and in Taiwan market, and how it differs from the other countries elsewhere, right? So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, indeed. Actually, Taiwanese government have several like key industry in terms of policy, but such as like IoT, green energy, AI, and so on. But I think it's pretty similar in every country. Like everyone has like a key industry. So for my opinion, for myself, and I think because Taiwan is basically dominated by SMEs, and especially from the tech manufacturing industry, and which is pretty like prosper, and we're still stronger. So actually because of the COVID, they have begun to carry out like a larger scale for digital transformation. So they want to collaborate with startups. So, and government also put money inside of it, and they provide like subsidize for this SMEs to buy products or buy solution from startups. So for me, I would suggest if your solution or products were related to help traditional industry in Taiwan, is like tech manufacturing things. Yeah, so if you can help them to transfer, or maybe you're doing like AI, or doing like help them to screening like new customers or product to improve their product. So I think they were very happy to talk to you and have your products in their factory. And also because Taiwan is like a pretty price sensitive market. So like usually factory, we think they, of course, they want to prefer to use big companies product, but because Taiwan is like pretty pretty price sensitive market. So if your product is more competitive or more focused on certain specific area, maybe there's a chance for you to come to Taiwan. Yeah, that's my opinion. But also, of course, there are lots of other industry and talents for other startups not from this industry. For example, like we have very like vibrant blockchain community. So yeah, that's because I'm from NIEA. So
No, but and you're actually the best person to talk about this. Lisa, thanks for giving us the hack towards how do we get into Taiwan and do very well. I think it's you have gave a very good tips about going about that. So thank you for that. I think that's great, right? So so I'm gonna do a bit of like a heartbreak, right? Now, and look into this question that's a bit of course it's definitely different from what we're looking at, right? It's actually about fundraising, right? Not just about expanding to Taiwan, but expanding to Taiwan not just about on the business end or the commercial end, right? We talk about fundraising, and of course I like to direct that to Jun about like how about fundraising? What do you think is about the fundraising landscape in Taiwan look like for startup? Jun?
Yeah, absolutely. So fundraising, I think, is a critical component of any emerging startup ecosystem. And contrary to popular thought, Taiwan is actually doing pretty well. I would say historically, Taiwan has struggled a little bit, especially in the early 2010s, right when the startup ecosystem was just starting to form. And the reason for that is Taiwan comes from a very legacy background of hardware semiconductor manufacturing. So a lot of the investors that are active in this space had actually a traditional mindset, right? So they expected ready-made products with very solid business plans that were producing positive cash flow and revenue. Whereas, if you're a software startup and a couple lines of code pitching to one of these investors, they would probably shoo away pretty easily. A lot of them are quite risk averse. And that's also because investors got burned during the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s, right? So some of that burn, they just never really recovered from. That's also because hardware is what has been carrying Taiwan's economy throughout the 80s, 90s, and also 2000s. So, why something broke is their kind of mindset. But that said, though, as the startup ecosystem started to form, as more and more startups and brave entrepreneurs started putting the product out there, so too did investors starting to go into space, including us, right? So we were probably one of the first, if not first, institutional VCs focusing specifically on startup softwares to establish ourselves in Taiwan. This was back in 2009. Since then, over the last 10 years, Taiwan's ecosystem has grown tremendously. I think the best indication of that is some of these unicorns that have IPO'd in Taiwan in the last 2 years, as I kind of mentioned before. So these include Gogoro, which combines both their e-scooter provider with a proprietary technology focusing on swappable batteries. They have more swappable battery stations than I think gas stations now, even potentially 7-Elevens in the country now. They recently went IPO versus SPAC, and this really incorporates the best of both worlds in Taiwan, both hardware. App here was also one of the very earliest startups to IPO in Japan, actually, but they're Taiwan homebred and grown. And these guys, they're Sequoia funded, and did very well for themselves, focusing on AI marketing automation. And lastly, one of our portfolio companies, now on App, which is kind of a marriage between force and like a CRM system. These guys have also homegrown and bred. And so with such success cases, suddenly it validates the ecosystem. Suddenly it helps give investors outside of Taiwan an indication that, hey, Taiwan is in fact capable of producing venture-backed returns despite a relatively small population, despite the relatively smaller market size as well. I think it's a great validation to what's been going on here. And this will certainly just be the first domino to fall down. It'll only start improving from here, especially as Taiwan starts doubling down on deeper technology, such as IoT, such as AI, and most recently in blockchain, right? So in the crypto space is super interesting. We demolished all borders and it democratized access to finance, right? So for example, one of our own portfolio companies, Blockto, they are one of the earliest wallets to support the trading and buying and selling of Flow token, a protocol, entertainment-focused protocol. And they since launched their own NFT marketplace and have become the third largest NFT marketplace in the world. Because of that attention, they actually got the interest of many, many international investors, Mark Cuban being one of them. If you were to ask Mark Cuban, invested in Taiwan before, this may as well be his very, very first investment. Paradigm shifts in the making, which Taiwan has been at the forefront and will likely help the country into the future and really put us on the global limelight, if you will, which will definitely help the startup ecosystem. Many startups have had trouble attracting international investors, let alone domestic investors, but we do see those ties gradually shifting moving forward.
Thanks, Jun. I think that's a very good summary of how the fundraising landscape will look like in Taiwan. It's definitely promising, and I'm definitely looking forward for it to grow even further. So coming back, we are talking about the different opportunities. We talk about fundraising landscape, and now it brings us to this question about and I like to direct that to Charles, right? Charles, you mentioned also, to consider is there any challenge to consider when expanding to Taiwan?
Yeah, I mean, there's challenges expanding to any market. Taiwan's got some interesting sort of considerations. I would suggest that you want to bear in mind. I mean, it's an incredibly business-friendly climate, right? So it's in, I think it's number 15 out of the sort of business friendliness index around the world. So out of like 160, 170 countries. Taiwan's number 15, so it's extremely well designed. I think that you have to focus in on the areas where you're going to be able to make the greatest impact, and by that I mean to say, do some research before you start to enter into the market around where your particular service or your particular product set are going to have the most traction. And when I say that, that's like, duh, Charles is the master of the obvious. But my point is that you need to understand the competitive environment they're going to be entering into. And I think a lot of companies look at a market like, let's say, Taiwan, and they want to enter that market. They're like, well, I'm going to go in there with my stuff and I'm going to show them how it's done, and I'm going to dominate the market. And that's the wrong attitude right from the beginning. The correct approach as you start to look at this market is, look, I've got some really interesting intellectual property, a really interesting business model, et cetera. What's already there that's similar to what I do or that's in my sphere, and how can I create a 1+1 = 3 scenario, because what you'll find, and it's true in every sort of unique cultural environment where you expand your business as a foreigner, but relationships, partnerships are the word of the day, right? Guanxi is incredibly important, and being able to plug the Legos together and create even greater value is going to allow you to remove a lot of the barriers that you might encounter. I saw one of the questions was about culture, certainly language, etc. Being a partner often removes barriers like culture and language, right? If you're really trying to create mutual value, mutual success, lots of those sort of overcomeable, to use a bad word, surmountable things become, instantaneously surmounted, right? You do need to think about incorporation is very complex. They've made a lot of changes to make it a lot easier for foreigners to set up in Taiwan. That's absolutely true. Very often it is the case, this is a little niggle, but if you want to set up a bank account, you've got to be there, right? You've got to be there to sign the documents and do everything in person. So that can be challenging if you're in an environment where you're in lockdown or things of this nature. So that's something to consider. Certainly, this sounds probably obvious to a lot of people, but your German documentation or your English documentation, et cetera, that ain't going to work. It needs to be in Mandarin. So you're going to have to engage a partner. Obviously, you need to get a lawyer involved and do these types of things. So, there are some incorporation challenges. There are always going to be recruiting challenges. There are ratios and things that you need to consider. One of the questions that I did answer, I hope that wasn't rude. While one of you were talking, I was answering one of the questions live, but they brought up the elephant in the room, which is what about tensions between mainland China and Taiwan? I think that if you remove politics, we don't need to talk about politics. What we want to talk about is the economic opportunity. And the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of opportunity. There's strong and very robust economic ties, right? So don't look at the obstacles, look at the opportunities. I'm an optimist, man. The glass is always going to be half full with me. But regardless, if you look at the different means and ways by which you can amplify the opportunities, I think you're going to remove a lot of those obstacles. The last thing I'll say on that from a challenge perspective is as it relates to setting up and recruiting, shameless plug, but I said it before and I'll say it again, a model like an employer of record where you can simply find the best talent and we can hire them for you compliantly, locally, pay them locally, compliantly, make sure their benefits are compliant and local. We can also connect you with recruiters who can help you to find that talent locally, right? So once that is overcome and you have this talented individual on the ground in Taiwan helping you to navigate the product market fit and the partnership landscape, then you can make the decision, okay, this is working, let's go the next step and scale. Let's get some funding, let's tap into government opportunities and really get our feet and our roots into the ground. So there's a litany of different ways to overcome it. You just have to be creative, and again, proper preparation will prevent poor performance.
Thanks, Charles. I think what I really like about what you just shared was about the 1+1 = 3. That's a very important mindset. It's not like I go into a market, I want to dominate the market, I own the market and stuff like that. It may become a sort of like an egoistic part of running a startup. But
people go into these markets very often, and on the airplane, back in the day, they would read their books, right? And the book they read was like The Art of War, Sun Tzu's Art of War, Okay, man, that's cool. But how about Zhenghe and the art of collaboration? I think when you start to collaborate and find ways to partner, you remove obstacles and you amplify your speed. And the critical factor, the most critical factor today in the post-pandemic world, and I'll go on a limb and say post-pandemic, right? Is the acronym TTV, time to value. How fast can you get into the market and start making a difference? And you're not going to do that by going in with a chip on your shoulder. I'm going to go dominate in a market that you don't even understand. Get a partner and do it right.
Right. See, Charles, that's great. Like you actually even answered the next talking point I had, which is sharing some of the strategies on how companies can scale up in Taiwan fast, and quick and
That's one,
efficient.
but these two folks have even better ideas than I do.
Of course, definitely. So, and that brings me to ask, Lisa, I did ask you about like, do you have any thoughts about like some of the strategies that companies can scale up in Taiwan, like quickly and effectively?
Yes. Like I said, I think it really depends what's your product and what kind of startup you are. But I give it like a general things. It's like you really need a local partner. I think in every country is like this. You need the local partner. And you need a local team. Whatever is you are building a team locally, or you find a business partner like agency or distributor, but you have need to someone be there, so you can have more deeper connection with your customer or your maybe your research team, and you will have to maybe before you come or before you explore, you really come to the market, you have to explore if you're how many chances in your market. Like I saw the question is from the game industry, the question from Merdy. Like in game industry, like you have to do a research. I can tell you that in game industry in Taiwan, like in 2020, there was Taiwanese people consume like $2 billion on gaming. So it's like just the first place is Japanese, and the second place is maybe Korean, but the third is Taiwan, but Taiwan is such a small population comparing to these countries. So okay, we have a very huge market here. So you will start, okay, we can, there are lots of reports on the internet, you can check on them. And also you can maybe connect to AppWorks. So you can talk, and also from Charles, then you will know, maybe someone can give you some feedback before you come, then you will have a better vision before you are here. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. And of course, not forgetting Jun, about what Charles and Lisa have shared, right? I think further to that is there's also a point about like how startup can address these challenges. So I thought of because I mean, Jun, you see a lot of like tech startups, technology and stuff like that. And I think this is an interesting question, right? Like how do you think technology plays a part in helping companies get a head start in Taiwan market?
Well, we only focus on technology, so for us, it's kind of a given. But at least compared to some more traditional startups, I mean, technology is a point of leverage, right? So suddenly you can validate your product without having even stepped foot in this country by simple online marketing, doing places on Google, Facebook ads, or even managing a team remotely, right? And that's actually what a lot of our startups based outside of Taiwan do when they're looking to enter the Taiwan market. They first, they poke around, they do some basic market validation, online needs, customer surveys, anything like that. That's the beauty of technology and the internet, right? It's frictionless to a degree. And then afterwards, they get to a certain product market fit, and when they get serious about it, they might hire an engineer or sales on the to really help solidify and grow those efforts. So technology plays a huge role in doing that, right? You can leverage a lot of the programs mentioned today, whether it's through NIEA or working with Globalization Partners for talent sourcing, or even working with us. If you're a startup founder, you can apply to our Accelerator Program, which is specifically designed to help foreign startups enter the Taiwanese market, right? We've been around for the past 10 years. So aside from being able to meet other founders on the ground here who can also help share some of their tactics, playbooks, practices, you would also get to connect with a lot of corporate partners, investors, and journalists on the ground here, which will inevitably accelerate your penetration.
I see. Thank you. Thanks, Jun. So I guess we have quite round up the questions, the talking points, and I really want to get into the Q&A that the floor has provided us. So let's get started on that. I think there are some that is really answered. Thanks, Charles, for helping out on that. So, and also let's see, yeah. So, and June, thanks for that, answering some of these questions, right? So, getting into this is the 4 other open questions that we have not touched on yet. So, I did like to start from the first question. I go around. So basically the first question is amazing to know that there are a lot of space for innovation in Taiwan, but what's the culture like for startups and people planning to go to Taiwan? I think we addressed that, but maybe Lisa, you want to go and have a touch and go on this, on the culture for startups?
You mean the culture of entrepreneurship?
I guess something along that line. Yeah, I know you addressed something like that also already. I know, but you know.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because in our last generation, like our parents or our grandparents, they already have this kind of like concept in Taiwan. I think it's very interesting. Maybe it's because Taiwan is like an immigrant society and we are small and the market is small. And so people need to go out, and we were pirates before 100 years ago.
Awesome.
And also the cultural, I want to quote like the entrepreneur I respect a lot from, he is also a member of NIEA, the founder of Acer, called Stan Shi, maybe you know him, and he said it's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a cow if you are like in Taiwan. Yeah, so people are more willing to take risk, to go adventures, start a business for themselves or for people, for their team, but not just join a huge company. Yeah, so I think that's pretty unique, like comparing to Japan, comparing to Korea. So I think this very interesting things. Yeah. So, and also for like cultures because I mainly was in Taipei, so I talked about Taipei. It's not just of course, it's lots of Taiwanese founder. They are very young. Maybe some of them just graduated from university, but some of them like they already have tens of years experience in manufacturing industry, and they saw some pain point of the industry, so they come out and start a business. So that's like the environment, and also government plays a very a very important role here. They spend like tremendous money on building startup ecosystem, so there's not really not really that efficiency, but they did a lot of work there. And also like AppWorks and lots of private angel club or VCs or accelerators. They really help everyone to build this environment together and collaborate with each other. So I think the culture you are going to, if you come to Taiwan, you'll know about, you'll feel the culture, like lots of people will come to you and say, okay, do you need this, do you need that, do you need that, and there's a program. I think too many programs there, so you can go to AppWorks or join us. So that's my suggestion. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. I think you're also starting to touch on the other point, which is on the programs available in Taiwan. So I thought, maybe before I come back to you, Lisa, of course, I'm sure you definitely want to share about some programs, right? June, do you have any thoughts? Does AppWorks have any programs?
Yeah, I kind of alluded it to before. So every 6 months, we have our Accelerator Program, intaking anywhere from 30 to 40 startups, specifically those working on AI, IoT, Web3 DAOs, and also Southeast Asia. So applications for our next batch will actually be launching at the end of this month. And the benefits of attending this program is, number one, is equity free. So you literally give up nothing to join it. Very, very little downside. On the upside, you get access to mentors, both experienced founders as well as investors, and as well as our partners within our own company who have had over 10 years of experience working with founders. You also get to meet like-minded peers who are either working on similar industries, different industries, similar stages or later stages, who serve as a source of camaraderie as well as insight, and also access to investors, corporate partners, as well as journalists, usually during our demo days, which usually attract out to up to 500 to 700 of these individuals. So a good form of exposure, good way to land on the ground, good way to get your name out there, good ways to validate and test your product and ideas. And also the last part is just hiring talent. We also have an in-house recruiter that specializes in headhunting, so which can really help point you into the right channels to look for, which nooks and crannies to look under.
Cool.
So you can find out more information on our website at appworks.tw/accelerator.
Great. Thank you. So Charles, anything from Globalization Partners?
With respect to what?
Program?
Programs?
Yeah. Any programs?
Look, I mean, I alluded to it earlier. If you're looking for talent, you haven't found the talent yet. We have a solution of curated recruiters all around the world called GP Recruit. We will make sort of visible to you a list of potential curated recruitment partners. With that, they all have very specific sort of skills and attributes. So you pick the one that makes the most amount of sense for you, and we'll kind of concierge introduce them to you. You provide them with what you're looking for. They walk you through a normal recruitment process. You find the talent, and then we'll put them onto our platform and hire them for you with a locally compliant contract, so that you're safe and you're buttoned up, and we'll provide the appropriate levels of social benefits that are required under Taiwanese law. And then, you know, you could be going in as little as 12 hours, right? So that's pretty cool, as opposed to getting on a plane and flying over. But I will say this, you should get on a plane and fly over, you know, you should go visit. It's an incredible, amazing place, filled with, I don't know if it's the best food in Asia, but it's damn good food, Jun, and wonderful, incredible hiking, incredible people, awesome music scene, incredible art. I mean, the place is, if you've not been there and you've been to Asia, you actually haven't been to Asia. So you need to go to Taiwan and check it out. Uh-oh, freeze frame.
I guess Dennis froze.
Dennis is frozen and so is Lisa. They must be on the same cross-Pacific cable.
It's you and me, huh?
Yeah, it's just you and me. That's cool. Well, look, we are at the top of the hour. I don't know if Lisa and Dennis are back with us. Are you guys back?
Yep.
Oh, hooray! You were so stunned by my comment that you froze.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I guess we got the last two questions. I know we are sort of running out of time, but then the thing is, let's get that through, right?
Sure.
The next question is for Lisa. So basically the question is, may I know what's the receptive level for business owners in hiring freelancers in Taiwan?
For us, actually, we don't really, for starters, actually, we don't really provide like talent service, but you can go to Charles or go AppWorks. They have like AppWorks, they have an online platform and that starter can post your requirement there. And for us, I think for me, myself, I think go into the community would be the very important things that you can hire people from those who are very vibrant, energetic in engineering community. So they will like you can get very good talent, but not just go on. In Taiwan, there's a platform called 104, which is the biggest headhunting website, but it's not really very efficient, and the platform is pretty old. And another another one called, there's a better one for startups called, forgot the name. Sorry. There's another for startups. Yeah, Orator. Yeah, there's other called Orator. So you can also go to other platform in Taiwan.
Thanks, Lisa. I think that's again, that's very good tips, and hope that answers the question. So last question, then we will go into our closing. Right? Is do you suggest for us to have local partners like C-suite level to ease expansion in Taiwan? Maybe I direct that to Jun. Any thoughts on that?
Local partners.
Yeah, C-suite level.
So I would say really depends on the stage of your business. Of course, if you're a multinational corporation with operations in many countries. Of course, hiring your first country manager is fine. If you're like Uber, but if you're a startup, that just barely raises Series A, maybe validate the market a little bit first. Be a little bit scrappy about how you enter the market. Perhaps hire your engineering head there. Perhaps hire a BD associate. Then think about hiring some management level people down there.
I see. Thanks, Jun. So I think that's similar to Charles, planning first, right? Need to do proper planning, and then you go to test, and then you'll find out about that. Okay, I think that will bring us to the end of the Q&A. And I did like to, invite the panelists to have your closing statement. Is there any, let's start from like how we started the whole session, right? Jun, you start first. Would you like to share any like insights or any final advice or like tips for the audience?
Not much. I think doing startups that's a long and hard and arduous journey filled with many bumps in the road, but it's incredibly meaningful. And at AppWorks, we really try to help you put the odds in your favor, right? And that's through connecting with other people, connecting with mentors, giving you the proper guidance to really get your startup off the ground. And as a founder, you owe it to yourself, your investors, your teammates to do anything possible to tip the odds in your favor. So are interested in entering Taiwanese market or just want to better understand what we do, or even get into Southeast Asia, welcome to add me on and afterwards, or also find out more information on our website at TW.
Okay, thanks, Jun. And to Lisa, so any closing statement, any final advice or tips?
Yeah, thank you for having me today. And so if you want to connect to Taiwanese local business, then please, you just contact me, and maybe you can search my name on LinkedIn and just give me a DM. And the Taiwanese government actually has lots of resources to assist startups, even you are a foreign startup. So just don't feel just feel free to talk to us. And we also have a new park just opened near inside of the Foxconn Industry Park in southern Taiwan, Kaohsiung. Yeah, this is the biggest industrial port in Taiwan. So they have more manufacturing factories there and in local industry. So if you're considered to expand to Taiwan, just let me know. Yeah.
Nice, thanks, Lisa. I think Jun just hop off. So then lastly to Charles, any closing statement? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, the market opportunity for entering into the Taiwan market is phenomenal. Don't forget to also look at the opportunities of M&A, a lot of mergers and acquisitions opportunities in the market in Taiwan, and certainly a lot of businesses in Taiwan that are looking to go abroad. So there's a ton of sort of reciprocal opportunity there. Lastly, I would suggest to you that if you notice that Jun and Lisa and I have all mentioned that blue chip companies have set up there, et cetera, et cetera. If the talent pool is deep enough for companies like Google and Microsoft to invest there, you should be looking there too. So from a talent perspective, there's a ton of opportunity to tap into, and it's up and coming. So get in while you can, and try to win the war for talent ahead of your competition.
Thanks, Charles. So I think that brings us to the close of this, panel discussion, and of course the market access series, right? I really also want to take the time to thank you E27 for getting these amazing panelists onto sharing about how do you get into access to Taiwan. This is the last. Joel, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, for sure, for sure. Thank you so much for that one, Dennis. And let me just share my slides here for a little bit. And yeah, once again, thank you so much to our moderator and to our panelists for sharing some amazing insights on how you can prepare your expansion to Taiwan and the supports available. And yeah, I agree. I think this is an amazing opportunity for foreign startups and businesses. So echoing what Charles mentioned, go there and check out Taiwan and see the environment for yourselves. And once again, thank you so much, June, Lisa, Charles, and Dennis for the very insightful discussion. I'm sure everyone here learned a lot. And yeah, so closing the webinar session now. But during the discussion, the panelists mentioned that one of the challenges in expanding is looking for talents overseas and how technology can play a great role in solving this. So you may scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the chat box to know more about how global workforce management is made easy. And once again, thank you so much everyone for joining today. As mentioned, this is the very last episode of this year's Market Access series. So we've covered Thailand, Philippines, Korea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And we have also covered Japan in a separate episodes. And we would like to know which countries you'd like for us to cover next. So let me just launch a quick poll here. So there, yeah. Please do let us know which countries you'd like for us to cover next. And once again, the Market Access series is one of the larger scale community events E27 is running this year. And we hope to see you in our future programs. And as always, you can find out more about upcoming events and programs around the region that you may be keen on joining at E27/events or by signing up for an E27 account to get updated with the daily digest. And once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending. Stay safe and see you in the next Market Access episode. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.